Well, hello, campaign followers. We are here today to do number two, turn two of the Lost Isle of Elithis campaign. So the six of us are back into it again for another round of matchups and shenanigans on the battlefield. So for those of you that are seeing this for the first time, I hope you'll go back and watch the previous two videos. So there was an intro video, and then there was a turn one video. So catch up on those. Quickly though, we were kind of excited to get back into this one as a group because there was some good opening shenanigans that went on, some best laid plans that fell apart, some tricksiness, especially from the elves and their moving around the sea coasts. I personally had kind of an exciting turn in that my fortress was shattered off the get-go, but I was able to beat some elves off of my coast to rebuild that, while at the same time, with another army, knife myself into some lizardmen territory and take over their capital as well. So good fun there. Moving ahead, though, what we're going to talk about today is through some imagery. I'm not going to make you look at my face all this whole video, but through some background pictures and stuff like that, we're going to talk about the battles that were fought, the random events that occurred, and how that all wrapped up towards the end of the turn. Maybe before we get into it, though, I'll kind of lay down a bit of groundwork here, and that is that we do two campaign turns for each season. So last one was the opening one, and this will be the end of the spring season. Now, what we intended to do right from the get-go was at the end of every season, so every second campaign turn, we would have something that involved a group battle. And that's what we're going to get into here. So we created a map territory that was off limits for the first turn and the second turn that you couldn't move into. It was in the middle of some swamps, and we'll look at the map here in a minute to show you that. Um, so the six of us would be playing swamp battles that would lead up to that in the Swamps of Madness, and then the winners of each of three different battles would then play a three-way game, which they did in the form of Triumph and Treachery, to see who would control the Swamp Temple of Morgheim. So that was effectively for three of them, two battles throughout this campaign turn. So let's not dwell on that. Let's go into some pictures and we'll show you how things all laid out. So let's open up by having a look at the campaign map as it stands right here. Now, just to remind everybody who's who, I am the red, or the brownish red that's down in the bottom southeast, I suppose, of the island. Right above me is a lizardmen force in the light blue, another lizardmen force in the yellow, and then across the other side of the island on the top side, that would be the northwest in green. Those are the elves. Below them, the smaller empire is Warriors of Chaos, and then in the purple, those are the green-skinned orcs. Now, here's something else to cover, and that is that in the sequence of order of how we do initiative, I suppose, it's always the smallest empire that goes first, and that's represented by the number of hexes that you control. So that's between me and the Warriors of Chaos, and then it moves up the scale from there. So the first thing that we did was roll up random events. And to talk about those, it was the Warriors of Chaos that had the initiative, so they went first. And what he rolled up was that he was the subject of an assassination attempt. So, the poor bastard, we don't know who the assassin was, but the results of it was that the guy would have a permanent injury of -1 weapon skill and ballistic skill to his demon prince. So that's a bit horrific. My random event really didn't come into play, and that is that I could double move with my armies as far as distance. After that was the lizardmen, the light blue ones. They found a treasure map which led them to a mine which he planted on the hex of C8. Sorry, C7 is where he planted it. And that's all very good for future developments. Now, the elves, what they did was they rolled up an event that allowed them to either deploy or go first in their battle that they were fighting in a future battle. So that was good. Next to go were the yellow lizardmen, and the event that he rolled up was he found a thing called Unfurl the Flag, which allows a unit immediately to find a free magical standard of a random strength, or random points rather, and that was a 20-point item. And then lastly,
the orcs rolled up the very same result, the assassination attempt that the Lord Malefic did with the Chaos Warriors. The unfortunate result of this, though, was that it meant that he was captured. So we all kind of came to a collective, because it doesn't really explain in the book who captures who. So we determined it would be totally appropriate if poor Whelpsley, the winner of the Goblin battle in the last one against the Warriors of Chaos, was actually captured in his retreat by the Warriors of Chaos, Lord Malefic. So that's how that played out. Now, as far as the movements of the flags on the map, we're actually not going to spend any time on that right now, because the movements actually are pretty inconsequential. It's an opportunity for them to take territory, yes, but the matchups for how the battles are going to be fought in this one are all randomly determined. So we will skip ahead to that, and we'll talk about the battles, and then at the end we'll show the final map and lay out how things played. Just want to make a quick mention right now that one of the fun things that happened to Keith and his Chaos Warriors is that he had a unit that had to suffer from stupidity as a result of one of the battles previously. So he applied it to his trolls, making them doubly stupid, and he's given them the nickname from the film Dumb and Dumber of Harry and Lloyd's Aspen Bound. So once again, good flavor, good imagination put in by the guys. So the first matchup that we had in the swamps was the High Elves versus the Warriors of Chaos, featuring their trolls. And so what I think I'll do is I will go and read what one of the players put as a battle report narrative on our Facebook page that we use for the campaign. So here goes. The swamp was thick and reeked of death. It quickly became clear to Lord Malefic the number of victims this swamp had previously claimed. In his wisdom, Lord Malefic decided to leave behind his slow-moving warriors. Their armor would only hinder them, and possibly trap them under the water along with thousands of other victims. Leaving behind his warriors, Lord Malefic decides that fast-moving monsters and beasts are his best plan for claiming his territory. Throg and his horde of trolls, Lloyd and Harry's Aspen Bounds, along with a horde of ogres, ought to do the trick. As the troop of monsters advance through the thick, steamy swamp, Lord Malefic soars above and spots a group of elves set to trap him. The elves must have known of their coming, but this is not a trap that Lord Malefic was about to fall into. Quickly, he organizes his entire warband before the elves are completely set. Throg is the first to act. He and Lloyd and Harry's Aspen Bound charge a horde of Sea Guard. Caught off guard, the Sea Guard flee, exposing the elf general and his advisors. So frightened were the Sea Guard that they flee into a river of boiling water. The few that survive the scalding flee until they are nowhere near the battlefield. Throg pushes forward, and is able to flank the general's war party of Phoenix Guard. The general is not so easily put off balance, however, and his troops are able to respond quickly. A bloody battle takes place between Throg's band and the Phoenix Guard, and the White Lions get their act together and proceed to attack Lord Malefic. Suddenly, the battle breaks when the horde of ice ogres charge and scatter the Phoenix Guard. At about the same time, Lord Malefic and his spawn finish off the White Lions. The battle is all but over at this point. However, the Warriors of Chaos Standard Bearer, Throg, and the Ice Ogres fail to make a charge against the Bolt Throwers. In their desperation and utter hatred for the Demon Prince and his band of monsters, the Bolt Throwers take their revenge and take Lord Malefic out of the battle. Thankfully, the bolt that took Lord Malefic down was caught by his magic shield. However, that shield was destroyed by the bolt, and so Malefic will have to do without it for his point onward. Had it been a shot slightly to the right, who knows if Lord Malefic would have survived to see another battle at all. Now the next battle was between the Orcs and the Yellow Lizardmen Empire. A bit of a unique occurrence here, though, actually, and that is that these two fellas, although they got together to play a game, they had to call it off early due to some other unforeseen circumstances. So what they did is they came together and they had a bit of an agreement, and this shows off kind of what's capable of being done in a campaign. So I'm glad that these guys were imaginative to do it. Anyway, the end result is that the Orc conceded the victory to the Lizardmen guy in exchange for one relic that the other fellow had already claimed earlier in the battle, earlier in the campaign. So they settled it out that way, meaning that the Lizardmen would move on, the Orcs would go home, but they would gain a relic out of it just the same. so helps him towards the end game. So the third pairing that had to happen for this battle phase was between myself, my Skaven, and the other Lizardmen army that was represented by the light blue on the map campaign. So I'll do the same thing here. I'll read you a little bit of narrative that I put together when I was writing up this scenario. So here goes. The mist drew back from the fens by early afternoon. The stench that it left was gut-wrenchingly foul. Well, it would have been, were the Skaven of Warlord Jenner not so accustomed to foulness. As the horde took up positions on drier ground, the realization dawned that the lizard things had advanced further ahead than expected. Colorful crests were visible above the still water, and slitted eyeballs could be seen bobbing on the surface. An opening volley of darts signaled that the enemy was already upon us. Cursing the hapless clan rats within earshot, Jenner squeaked his commands to the disorganized mob. The battle for marshes was underway. The thick mud sucked at his paws as Warlord Jenner advanced into the bog. His lizardmen foes did not seem to be as hindered as his own storm vermin and clan rats. Their slow advance was met by skinks and Saurus cavalry. Jenner's pet abomination was dragged into the murky beyond under the rush of scaled feet, but was quickly avenged by terrifying rat ogres. While the Saurus cavalry knifed in behind the lines, a magical contest of wills was boiling between Nicodemus' understudy Kizok and the ancient Slan across the field. Kizok eventually succumbed, as Jenner knew he inevitably would, to the sorcery of Colonel Slanders. Strong-limbed hands erupted from the marshes to drag down the seer and his accompanying clan rats. In other parts of the field there was little to be told, as the cowardly lizard things would not meet the clan rats in the field. Jenner's own storm vermin were beset by salamander fire and saw no combat to test their blades. In the end, there was not much carnage, and the engulfing marches left little evidence of the fallen, but it was not a good day for Skavendom. So now then, we have the 3 participants set to go ahead to fight the final battle for this campaign spring session, which would be a triumph and treachery game between Lizardmen and Warriors of Chaos. Now, what they're all fighting for is this temple fortress within the deeps of the swamps called Morgheim. And the benefit of this and the reward for doing so is that the person that controls this at the end of the entire campaign, so after all 4 seasons, will be awarded 5 relics, which will move on towards their final battle of Triumph and Treachery that we're all going to play together. So, let me get into this with yet another narrative that one of the guys wrote onto the Facebook page, and I'll read that through to get you the results. The mist swirled around the fetid swamps, muting the rustle of the skinks and the low growls of the cold ones. The taint of chaos could be tasted on the stale air, and fumes from the marshes pushed many warriors to the brink of their sanity, but the cold-blooded resolution of the lizardmen held. Elsewhere in the marshes, a rival Slan, who was paid off the advancing orc horde, advanced his army to lay claim to the marshlands. Unfazed by the arrival of an enemy comprised of green, albeit uninjured, troops, Colonel Slanders marched the remains of his army to take what was undoubtedly his. He had seen it in the heavens. His army had moved swiftly since his defeat of the vile ratmen, the Saurus and Skinks thirsting for more bloodshed after whetting their appetites for slaughter on the Skaven. For in the marshes a far fouler and more ancient enemy lurked, devotees of the Chaos Gods. Colonel Slanders could tell that the very presence of the Northerners corrupted the island's magic, and they had to be stopped. He would deal with the upstart Slan in due course. The mist withdrew, and silhouetted against the foggy skyline were hordes of grotesque evil monsters. Ice ogres and trolls from the frigid chaos wastelands bare down upon both lizardmen hosts, their war cries eclipsed by the furious bellowing of Throg, the Troll King himself. Fortunately, the monstrous horde was struggling to cross the raging river, which brought the lizardmen time to maneuver, unconcerned as they were about the river or the marsh. A streak of purple lightning descended from the sky as a champion of chaos riding some tentacled horror charged into the rival Slan's pet Stegodon. Unharmed, the beast went wild, and gored the unholy human, but the corrupt one survived. Unsettled by his holy resilience, the great beast turned and fled the battlefield, but left the Disc Rider in among the lizardmen lines, proudly brandishing his army's battle standard aloft. All this Colonel Slanders watched with unblinking eyes. Gathering the winds of magic to himself, he implored the denizens of the swamps to reach forth from their graves and drag Throg and his trolls to a watery death. Throg fought off the grasping hands, but 5 of his retinue were dragged below, never to be seen again. While Throg was distracted, Colonel Slanders ordered his salamanders move forward and to cleanse the marsh of the Throg. Flesh melted from bone as the fire raked the trolls, and before they could recover, hundreds of stinging darts filled the air. The troll horde was decimated. Fearing for his life, Throg left the remaining trolls to their fate and charged the rival Slan's lines, doing what the bumbling ice ogres had been failing to do. As the Chaos Champion slew the revered skink priest Teto Echo, so too did Throg reap a mighty toll on the rival Slan's temple guard. The brave Saurus warriors saw that their Kroxigor brothers were close, which gave them courage to hold fast, unlike the temple guard, who could not withstand Throg's fury and escape the battlefield, surviving to take revenge another day. Throg, exhausted, sat in a river waiting for the inevitable Cold One charge to come. It never came. Colonel Slanders once more called the denizens of the underworld and dragged down a third of the ice ogres, causing them to turn and run. With that final stroke, Colonel Slanders secured his dominance over the battlefield and claimed the Marshes of Madness for the Lizardmen. So there you have it. The winner of this battle was the Blue Lizardmen Empire. So the spoils and what's gained by this is, of course, he gains the tile with Morgheim on it. But he also gained a couple of special magic items that are described in the Blood in the Badlands book. One of those was the Marsh Wader. That's a magic item that allows a unit to move as a strider through any marshes. The Warriors of Chaos, who lost, one of the rules on the defeat table was that he had to choose another unit to be stupid. So what he did was he applied it to the same trolls that were already stupid twice. So now they are triple dumb, triple stupid, which is quite hilarious. In concert with that, he also managed to catch another one of the magic items, and this is the Crown of Nicodemus the Nonsensical, which is kind of like the wizard hat, but it gives the wizard a level 1 shadow mage, but is also stupid. So he's going to apply that to one of his heroes. And then on the other Lizardmen side, one of the things of defeat was that he's got a unit that has to fight at half strength in the next battle, but he did claim the Bog Standard, which is a magical banner that also allows the unit to be a Marsh Strider. So there's the fun game map and show how it all looks at the end of the spring session. So the spot that we've been contesting and the one that it looks like on there is the one at D3. So again, that's controlled by the pale blue Lizardmen at the end of this. A couple other moves that went on here is those sneaky elves have gone down to the southwest corner and they've controlled the Orc fortress where their capital once was. On the other side of the island, everything's pretty much stayed status quo. You can see a few more buildings and mines have gone up, so people are starting to establish a bit of a stronghold that way. The other interesting move too was that you'll see that a Chaos, that's the white, has moved into C4, so kind of knifing across the island there and planted a flag, probably in anticipation of our next end of summer activity, which is going to be for the conquest of the one at C5. So I think that's a wrap for this one. So that's 2 turns of the campaign down, and we're well into playing the 3rd one right now. So of course we'll do a summary video when that one's wrapped up. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and if you've got questions about what we're doing, or if you have any queries about how the campaign is running, you're certainly welcome to plop it in the notes down below, and I will respond in kind to those. Okay, good day.